Today we're diving into one of the most popular areas right here in San Diego called Carmel Valley. So if you're thinking about moving here, definitely stick around. We're gonna get into everything you need to know, from neighborhoods, things to do, amenities, schools, and what makes this neighborhood such a highly sought after place. So let's get into it right now. So first off, how do you even pronounce it? As you can see here from the Voice of San Diego, there is quite the division right here, but locals, drop the comments below. Let the folks know what you guys think, how Carmel Valley is actually pronounced. But let's get into the map. So Carmel Valley is right in the middle of San Diego right here. Right up here, you have North County. Down to the south, you have the city of San Diego. This is actually technically the city of San Diego, but it's also its own little jam. It's a master plan community. Like I said, within the city of San Diego, there's a few different areas which we'll dive into today, but you're not directly on the coast, but you're also not too far inland. So if you are just getting our bearings for where we're going, and right now I have circled 92130. So that is the zip code down here. But if you just hit Carmel Valley, it's actually taken out like Pacific Highlands Ranch, plus some of this area to the north, right north of Torrey Highlands up here. But we're just gonna keep 92130 because a lot of that area, so if you're searching, and a lot of this area is kind of similar as far as homes, as far as pricing. So if people are like, I'm interested in this area, this is kind of what we're talking about when we jump on our discovery calls. So let's get into just a little bearing. So if you are, coming to San Diego and you need to travel and you want a central area right here, let's just see how far we are getting to the international airport, give you an idea for distance. And we're looking at it right now on a Thursday about 1:09. So you're gonna see it is not too bad, about 25-ish minutes to get down there. Now coming back, so it could definitely take some time. So I was down at the Padre game, downtown San Diego yesterday. I live up in just past Carmel Valley. And coming home, we came home, it was a day game, in that rush hour, all the way kind of as these freeways meet. It wasn't too bad until you get to kind of this golden triangle right here where the 805 and the 5 freeway meet. So you wouldn't be in it too long. You could just pop out, but there's gonna be some on the 56. There's a little locals bypass that will lead you to the 56 as well. So depending on where you live in there, yeah, you're not in traffic. The traffic kept going through, Encinitas when I went, but definitely budget yourself for a little more time if you are planning on traveling to work and whatnot. And Carmel Valley is kind of in an area that we refer to as North County San Diego. It's right on the border. So, it's like, is it North County San Diego? Is it not? But it is basically separated by the 56 freeway, which is the main east-west freeway cutting Carmel Valley right in half. To the west, you have the 5 freeway. A little bit further inland is the 15. Those are the main north-south freeways. And Carmel Valley is kind of like a mid-size, like I said, it's part of the city of San Diego, but as far as neighborhoods go, people are saying they live in Carmel Valley. They don't necessarily say they live in San Diego or the city of San Diego. If you're traveling out and about, you just want to most people might not know where this is. Yeah, I live in San Diego. But if you're here, oh, where do you guys come from? You see somebody at a soccer game. Oh yeah, you're from Carmel Valley. Okay. A lot of people will know what you're talking about if you're doing that. But population wise, it's looking about 60,000. So kind of on par with the Encinitas to the north, and right directly to the north, you have Rancho Santa Fe. Directly to the west is Del Mar. Directly to the south is Sorrento Valley. And you have La Jolla down a little bit further. So right in the central heart of San Diego right here. And a quick fact, a lot of this area before the 1980s, a lot of it was agricultural land, including the Grand Golf Club where they used to grow some lima beans and some other drought tolerant plants, but it was all on where now the golf club is right here. So let's dive into kind of the layout of Carmel Valley, the few different neighborhoods, few different areas. If you've seen our Carlsbad videos, it's pretty cut and dry where you have different zip codes. So it's like the La Costas, Alvieras. I mean, there's all these little micro neighborhoods as with this too. So if you guys want to dive in and figure out which actual neighborhoods are going to work for you, feel free to reach out. We'd love to earn your business. All our info is popping up. Call, text, email. We can set up a quick introduction call and hop into the map just like we're doing right now and kind of show you a few different areas that might work for you. But as a whole, there's a few different areas of Carmel Valley. Starting south of the 56 to the eastern portion, you have Del Mar Mesa, bigger homes out here as a whole too. And you'll see it some of the drone footage, how Cassie and I describe Carmel Valley, especially this northern section, is sea of homes, because there's a lot of homes. It's pretty dense in there, but there's also some outdoor space, which we'll get into activities and kind of where you're gonna go hiking and all that kind of stuff, because there is a bunch of other areas that once you get out from just the neighborhoods, there's some really cool areas to explore. So Del Mar Mesa, you have Carmel Highlands Town Center, you have Torrey Hills down to this section up here. There's a few more master plan communities up here. As you go over to just north of Del Mar Heights, you have Del Mar Highlands, you have Lansdale Estates. You'll see some of these little neighborhoods popping up. So these are named neighborhoods, but they are all, like, especially in here, a lot of them are very similar. And then over to here is Pacific Highlands Ranch, which is kind of like an add-on to Carmel Valley. This was like one of the original areas over here as they kind of built out. And this is one of the newer areas in here. But as you can see, as we're zooming in, just a bunch more housing. It's a little bit more dense in this section. And there's a bunch of different style homes. So you have like condo townhomes right around the town center at Pacific Highlands Ranch. So we'll get into all that. So location wise, you are, like I said, a little bit farther inland. So you're not right on the coast, but even though you are so close, you're just east of the 5. Like if you go to Encinitas, you go east of the 5. Encinitas is on the coast, but it's also east of the 5. But the whole vibe of Encinitas is a little bit different, where you do kind of feel like a little bit more beachy vibe, a little bit more of that, you know, beach town. When you get into Carmel Valley, it's not necessarily like that. It's a little more suburban. It's a little more, you know, just like I said, a lot of houses. You do have some awesome infrastructure in here. There's definitely more hiking in Carmel Valley than, you know, other areas within San Diego, but it just definitely doesn't necessarily have that super coastal feel like some of the really coastal neighborhoods right here in San Diego. But as you're living here, you're going to be finding that since you are a little bit further inland, you're going to be not getting so much of that, you know, marine layer that comes in. There's no definitive line kind of where the marine layer starts, where it ends, but as you go further inland, it's going to tend to be a little bit warmer. Now, it doesn't go too far inland here. So as you get to some of these areas in here, you're definitely going to have some of that marine layer. You're going to have some of those cooler days. You're going to get some of that coastal breezes throughout a lot of this area. So, I mean, through most of this area here, because you're close enough. So you're going to get that more temperate. You're not as far inland, like if you were looking at this area and then you were comparing it to, let's say, like some other areas inland, maybe Scripps Ranch, maybe there's some areas in Poway that have some, you know, master plan communities like this. Obviously that's way further inland, so it's going to be much warmer up there. Here, yeah, it's pretty mild, pretty temperate through most parts of the year right here in Carmel Valley. Now let's jump into a little bit of amenities right here. And what you're gonna find is there's a handful of really cool town centers, villages, etc. I'll show you where those are right here in a sec. So let's say you need your Home Depot here. You could go inland over to this direction to Carmel Mountain Road, down the 56th, and then up the 15. You can go up to Encinitas, you go down to Mira Mesa, but you're not going to find a lot of that in here. Same thing for some of the other big box stores. Like you're looking at Target, you're going to see nothing pop up kind of right there. Like I said, you're going to be going up to kind of like 4S Ranch, once again down here in Mira Mesa, down south in La Jolla, that kind of area. So there's none of that there. As far as like shopping stores, yeah, there's plenty of grocery stores and this and that. But like a lot of people who are moving out here, like, I want to, you know, where's the Trader Joe's at? So the closest Trader Joe's is right on the border. So it's like right in that Pacific Highlands Ranch village right there. So that is something you do have. But there's plenty of other options as you're going through here. And one of the biggest areas, one of the main draws, or real quick before we get into that, if you guys are coming out here for work, there's not a ton of infrastructure as far, or like jobs and this and that in Carmel Valley. So a lot of the big areas you could see where all these like white buildings are popping up, just due south. So this is like Sorrento Valley. You're gonna find some off to the east here. If you're going downtown, we already showed you where that is. Down here in Kearney Mesa is a little bit of that as well. You do have some up in Carlsbad as well. So you'll see there's no big like business districts in here. You have a little one as you get closer to the coast, but nothing compared to some of these other areas right here in San Diego. All right, now some of the bigger shopping centers. We're just south of Del Mar Heights, and you have One Paseo, which is a newer shopping center right here. It's kind of like outdoor, where you're gonna find nice little coffee shops. You're gonna find some clothing stores, awesome little ice cream spot. If you guys haven't been, go explore this place. There's parking structures right over here, and gives you a good vibe of this area right here. Some other Italian restaurants, but it's an outdoor shopping mall, and it's all set right within here. So you're gonna find some other restaurants on this side as well. And then right across the road right here is the Del Mar Highlands Town Center, where there's a bunch more places to shop. So once again, like I said, you got Ralph's, just your general grocery store. You have Sinopolis. You have a bunch of places in here. When we were filming, we did our vlog style. We were filming right kind of on the second row up here. And you're gonna find a bunch of like fitness spots and yoga spots and all that kind of stuff, dance academies, etc., Pilates, all that stuff's in here as well. And over in this area, you're gonna find another grocery store, Jimbo's, and then Sky Deck, which has a bunch of other spots to eat in here. There's the beer brewers deck up here, so a few beer spots up here, but then a bunch of restaurants surrounded by a central bar right in there. So anyways, really cool town center, a really cool amenities to have right on the western portion of Carmel Valley. And those are two of, this kind of like one of the biggest shopping areas in here. The other one, as you go inland a little bit, you're gonna go to Pacific Highlands Ranch, and you're gonna find that's where that other Trader Joe's is. And this is like the village area of Pacific Highlands Ranch. Now it's kind of considered, like I said, it was like kind of a bolt-on to Carmel Valley. So it's newer, so all this is built out, really dense in here. There's a cool little park up here I'll show you in a sec. But as you go into here, you're gonna find the same thing. So Pacific Highlands Ranch, you have Pacific Social, you have Pueblo, you have Amalfi, which is a really good little Italian pizza spot. But anyways, you have a few more restaurants and your typical stuff, Starbucks, etc. in here. So that is another one a little bit further east in Carmel Valley. Pacific Highlands Ranch is this area. All right, and with some of these amenities, going back to One Paseo, they do have some events there. So you have Oktoberfest at One Paseo coming up here pretty soon. They have live music a lot of times, just outdoors. It's a really, really neat outdoor shopping mall, kind of cruise around. They have movie nights, if you're thinking Hocus Pocus, some cold plunges. And on the shopping front, you're gonna find a bunch of places to shop in there. On the dining front, once again, there's a bunch of places, and there's always new places to hop in here. And some of these are always changing. Harlan Brewing is actually going to be leaving. They still have a place over in 4S Ranch, what they're building out, but they won't be there anymore. A lot of these other places are still here. Goop, Gwyneth Paltrow's kitchen, is going to be coming in here as well. So you got a lot of that stuff in here. And then even though you do have a lot of this density right here in the central area, you do have some open space to the north, just on the border to the south here. You have the Penasquitos Reserve here. So those Penasquitos Canyon County Preserve goes all the way up here. And I've been hiking out on a lot of these spots here, and it looks kind of small in here. But once you get down in here, you don't feel like you don't see these houses up here. You don't see the houses over here. There's trails in the middle, this little waterfall up here, and a bunch of different trails leading to it. So a bunch of different areas to roam out here. And like I said, it does feel a little more spread out once you do get into some of these areas. So even though there is the density of the homes in here, you're gonna find some of these hiking open space parts. One of my boys had a soccer tournament. It was right over here at the Pacific Highlands Ranch Community Park. But between one of the games, I hopped out, walked down the road over here, crossed over the freeway on this side, and then ended up in all of this open space out here, ended up on this big hill. And like I said, it doesn't look like much here, but once you're out there, yeah, it feels a little bigger. So it's pretty cool. So you do have a lot of that access. So if you guys are hiking, if you want to get outdoors, even though it's a little bit more condensed in a lot of areas over here in Carmel Valley, it is a lot of areas to get outside as well. And then like I mentioned, a bunch of parks in here. So here is the community park. One downside is there's not a ton of parking in here, but you usually use the school parking lots on the weekends and stuff. But they do have a little dog park over here, really cool pump track out this way. So you got kids, bring them out here. It's an awesome little thing to have. And then just spread out through, that's Pacific Highlands Ranch. But Carmel Valley, let's get back over to here. You're gonna find a bunch of other little community parks, little areas to get outdoors. So there's plenty of areas to get out and enjoy that California sunshine that we got here. All right, now what about schools? This is where it gets a little bit tricky, not too bad, but there's a few different school districts that do feed into Carmel Valley in different areas of Carmel Valley. And it's not like, it would be easy if it's just south of 56, north of 56, but it's a little bit different. So we're gonna check out Del Mar Union Elementary School District, and it's gonna feed this southern portion of Carmel Valley. So some areas just north of the 56, Torrey Hills, Carmel, Country Highlands, that kind of area. So you're gonna see this whole section, and I'll bring it up right here where you could see all of the elementary schools depending on where you're at, but you can see the cutoff line. Even certain areas south of Del Mar Heights Road serve to a different school district, which I'll show you here in one sec. But here are all the schools within Del Mar Union. This is K through 6. Now, if you live north of that, you're gonna be in the Solana Beach Elementary School District. You can see it covers a lot of area, obviously Solana Beach as well. But a lot of this area up here, Del Mar Highlands right here, Lansdale Estates, a lot of the areas north of the 56 right here, Pacific Highlands Ranch. So all of this area is going to be in the Solana Beach School District, which is right here. Now, you know, it's Solana Beach School District, but a lot of the schools are right within the community here. So you have Solana Ranch, you have Carmel Creek, you have Solana Highlands right within that community. So even though you're in a different cities, technically, school district, a lot of the schools are right within these areas and within your neighborhoods. Then once you get into middle school and high school, you're gonna be in the San Diego Union High School District. And you can see it's a pretty big district. It covers all the way up to certain areas of Carlsbad, into Encinitas, Del Mar, etc. But it covers all of Carmel Valley as well, Pacific Highlands Ranch as well. So depending on what area you're in, there's a few middle schools that you're gonna be feeding into right here. And for high school, Torrey Pines is going to be your go-to school. Canyon Crest Academy, it is open enrollment for a certain number of students, so you can apply, but not guaranteed to get in, depends on how many students are accepting. So you do have those options as well. So we'll get into home prices here in a sec, but I just want to give you a quick rundown. A lot of this area, like I said, is master plan. So whether you're in Torrey Hills down here and you know you're just looking at this area, it's going to be very similar to other areas where you have a lot of the same looking homes, a lot of the same colors. You're not going to find a ton of character in a lot of these areas. It just depends on the neighborhood's one of the original phases. Are they a little bit newer? Mostly all the homes, besides Del Mar Mesa, when you get out there, those are all custom, but they're all going to be very similar no matter which area you go in. Now, yes, there's little nuances here and there. There's definitely different architecture, different elevations, etc. in different areas throughout Carmel Valley. So once you get in here, it's a little bit older area. You can see a little bit different style, but you know, not too much different. And especially when you go over north a little bit into Del Mar Highlands over here, once again, kind of similar all through here, just another bunch of little track homes over here. Now, once you get to going east a little bit bigger homes over here in Lansdale Estates. As you're going east a little bit further, when you get into Pacific Highlands Ranch, you're gonna find a little bit different style in here because they are somewhat newer, but like this style in here is gonna be a little bit tighter, where since it was built more recently, they packed a few more homes in here. You don't have traditional garages in here. You have kind of like these, you know, you can see no driveways in this particular area. I'll show you one area that does have driveways, but you're gonna have like these little areas where you do have these alleyways with garages and stuff. So you do have a garage, it's just not your traditional driveways and such. So that's how that is built. And then when you go a little bit further this away, you're gonna find bigger homes over here, a little bit newer in a few different elevations here, but you can see a lot of it kind of looks super similar as you're going through here. So as far as Carmel Valley goes as a whole, you don't have a ton of character, and you get some big homes up here as you're overlooking the Del Mar Country Club over here. But you're gonna find a lot of it, the area is very similar. There's some condos as well. Once again, very similar. So depending on what you're looking for, I'll show you some home prices here in a sec. But definitely, if you want something specific, reach out, call, text, or email, because we got your back when making the move here to San Diego. Now, Carmel Valley as a whole definitely is not considered, you know, an affordable neighborhood. Even on San Diego terms, it's definitely up there. As we're looking in here, 4-bed, 3-bath, 2,100 square foot, listed at 2.15. That's in that Torrey Hills area. As you jump over, a little 2.7, as you jump up to the north a little bit here, 3.6, 6-bedroom, 6-bath, so bigger homes right there. As you go into some of those older areas, there's some condos in here where you're looking at 2-bed, 2-bath, 1,244 square foot for just shy of $900,000. Once you get into Del Mar Highlands up here, once again, you have some condo options. Let me see if we can find a home up in this little section here. You're going, once again, like 2.75, 4-bed, 4-bath, 3,000 square feet. So looking right here, average value of a home is over $2.1 million. $847 is the average price per square foot. Right now, there's 70 homes on the market. And then you can compare this to San Diego metro area, these back bars here. See right here. And then Carmel Valley, you can see it is on the more expensive side here in San Diego. Not a ton under that $1 million mark. There's some condos, there's some, you know, townhomes, etc. Once you get into that 2 million to about 3 million, you'll see that's kind of where the bulk of the housing is. So definitely, like I said, a little bit pricier in this area, but bigger homes, like I said, a lot of them are going to be newer as well. But as a whole, there's a lot more homes than there are condos. So about 44% of the properties are homes. You have about 11% plus down here, another 1.5% of townhomes and condos. You do have about 20% apartments, and then you have some office, retail, etc. And then the weather, you only have 11 inches of annual precipitation. Average temperature in the summer is 74. Average low in the winter is 48. So that's something I always like to call attention to, is it does get a little bit chillier. Now, if you're coming from a cold place where it actually snows, you can see the annual snowfall here is 0. It's, yeah, you're gonna be like, come on, 48 isn't that cold. But layer up here, it is cold. As you live here, you're probably gonna get cold. So somewhat walkable, definitely car dependent, as with most other areas here in San Diego. Pretty much no transit within here. There's no trains or anything coming through there. You have the buses and whatnot, but other than that, there's not a ton going through that neighborhood. And so you have Carmel Valley in the center here. There's some other areas that are surrounding that other people are looking at as well. Like I said, if you're living in Sorrento Valley, not a ton of housing options. Now there's some new communities down there as well that can definitely work. So if you guys want to dive into some of those where you want to be a little bit closer to work, that might be a good area. Torrey Highlands, similar as well. Black Mountain Ranch, once you get into Forest Ranch. Solana Beach, if you want a little bit more coastal. Del Mar Heights, and then the city of Del Mar. Now, those are gonna get a little bit pricier as well. But once again, if you want a little bit more coastal, you want to be just minutes to the beach instead of like 15, 20 minutes to the beach, those might be some good spots for you. If you guys want to see boots on the ground, Cassie and I out there checking out these neighborhoods, go check out that other video popping out where we cover some of these main neighborhoods and show you actually what it looks like, cruise around, what it would be like to live right here in Carmel Valley.